is something that tend to empower you, to make you feel important. Okay, this is one aspect of it. I cannot deny it. But the most important thing is the writing. When you write something, how to create a kind of low shadow situation for your hand so you can see very clearly how you write. Like when the light was flushed on the table and it comes out and the light coming from this angle, and when you write, the light is coming right in front of your hand, so it sort of create a very soft writing environment for you. It's not something from the top, create shadow on your hand, you don't exactly see what you're writing. Something you observe in your daily life and you realize those we continue to overlook. But actually, a simple solution can overcome it and becomes, you thought it's new, but we have been requesting for a long time, but we just do not give a solution. We ignore it. We look at something else completely. We look at the next one. These two chairs is actually the same design, but just one is slightly bigger than the other. But why? For what reason? I think it's also a kind of respect to your guests when you invite somebody for dinner. In case someone cannot sit on a smaller chair, you don't give another different kind of chair. You give the same chair, but without being noticed that this is slightly bigger, more comfortable for him to fit. So that's something I think also very considerate as a guest, very kind of showing a great courtesy to people who you invite. I also believe the best circular table has one leg. Do you know why? Because you can sit 3 people, 4 people, 5 people, 6 people, 7 people, 8 people, without dealing with the legs, because the legs is in the middle. So think about it. Don't ignore this, because a circular table with 4 legs has a big problem. Don't design a circular table with 4 legs. Promise. And then there's the issue about fireplace and television, the 2 protagonists of a house, because they both want to be in the center. And how do you deal with them? So now with the table, which is like has a certain weight, a certain kind of dimension, you take care of the fireplace, so you can put the TV and free yourself this kind of agony. Maybe not so much in Indonesia, the rest of the world, it's an everyday struggle. I go back again, this question about if your house has a good balance of different kind of furniture. Some have a form, some with line, some is soft, some is hard, some is more transparent, some is more opaque, some big, some small. Find a good balance of it, and you realize that this is far more than just have a main piece, and they don't seem to work very well. And always, you need a furniture. It's like a shuttle to go from one place to the other. They help each other in case that place needs your help and this place needs your help. So they can go around. And this is always something that is very, very helpful. It's like the messenger, to bring things, to carry things away and all this. So this part is also extremely important. The mobile is something that moves, but this is real mobile. It's really move with wheels. And I work with bamboo a lot, and I think this part of the world also perhaps. And I always face the problem of that they change shape, they deform. So we find a way to make those bamboo that maintain a good shape. And actually work with a kind of different direction of the grain, so that when it's cut, it reveals a very beautiful texture of the section of the bamboo and the parallel grain of the bamboo to create that tray. Maybe the next one we see better. Here. When you make a turn, and all the end grain saw, and then here like this, and the parallel grain saw a little bit different. So it's bamboo is very seldom when you turn it in review and the texture that I never thought of. And yet, technically, it overcome a big problem because it doesn't deform anymore because the overlapping of different directions of the grain prevent them from deform to another shape. You see, it's a very unexpected texture coming from bamboo. It's a kind of a recent discovery that it can be like that. Go fast a little bit. Okay. Box. Another very interesting, since I was very little, I'm very preoccupied with box. Because box is something that you show how much you care about your things. Where do you put them? Where do you hide them? Your little secret. How big those secrets should be, where they should be put. And I love to create boxes of different kind and how they put on top of each other and disappear and close. And here, when it's open, there's a mirror, and it covered that you reveal it partly. There's a display, and here, I hope there's a piece here in front of you. There's a secret compartment which I have not revealed here, and you have to completely open it, and you can hide something completely you never thought of that is hidden in this box. Now, this has occupied me since I start knowing design, because in today's world, we want to change. We want to have new things continuously. And at the same time, we are talking about ecological approach to our environment. I also believe that if you use your things more continuously, and last, durable, and at the same time, that it stays with you and it's valid aesthetically, taste-wise, and all these things. Why we have to continue new things to satisfy new desire? So I continue to question about this, because timelessness is a thing that we cannot say 1 + 5 - 2 × 6 = timeless, because it's not something that I can help you to define, but it's considered something that when I search for it, that I find it more and more interesting, because it's so unattainable. It's always something that it only happened to you, but it's never something that is under your control. And that makes it more and more interesting for me. So I'm completely obsessed with this way of looking at the things around me. During the Second World War, towards the end, I would say, when Berlin was bombarded by the Allies, quite very important building of Hitler, the Chancellery, was bombed and create this kind of ruins. And Hitler came to inspect the damage of the bombardment and see this kind of ruins. This is a ruin in Greece. They collapse. People do not say, this is garbage, let it throw it away. They study them. They measure them. They try to understand why it's like that. Go back to the previous image. This one, you look at it, you want to get a bulldozer and throw it away. So there's one question coming to me. What I have created, or what you are going to create, is it contribute to this, or the garbage is going to be thrown away? This is a very interesting question. So I try to detach myself from design a little bit, and I look at it in a more, what I say, more philosophical and aesthetic from that perspective. And I try to create some objects that encompass the three domains of time: past, present, and future. And don't think that future is about Star Wars, not necessarily. Star Wars is imaginary by Hollywood. I don't know who did it. Because what precision I meant in my heart is that you attain precision when the work of your hand disappears. That's for me is precision. Because I accept the fact that our hands never precise, and a computer is limited. So, please continue. There's a continuous puzzle to me as well, and to all of you, what these things are, who make them, what kind of civilization, what kind of aspiration they have to make this thing, and they're so precise, and what for? So it's a continual enigma to be answered, to be searched, to understand. So I'm no more a sculptor or designer. I'm more an archaeologist, just like you, to find out what this is. The precision of the joinery is not handwork, nor machine work. It's not from us. It has no gravity. And when there's a hole, there's an interior. And the interior is another world inside. And it denies any gravity. It doesn't work with the common physics, common law of physics that we understand. And here is bronze, but inside is all wood. One question is, how can you do that? Because the bronze, when you cast it, is a high temperature, and the wood will be burned. And this still remains a kind of enigma to discover how this is going to be possible. Look at the precision of the wood relationship with the bronze. And we make a little prepared wood, now it changes shape, it disappears, it cannot line up anything. And here, after so many years that's been done, it's still perfect like that. Who did that? Who did that? And this is the method of casting is still like in the Renaissance by Michelangelo using the lost wax method to cast the bronze. Where does this will go? To carry what? Why they're so precise? Why they fly or they hover in something? They travel with another kind of energy. Maybe it's not human that's using them. Is that this kind of continuous enigma to help me to extend this sculpture beyond that beyond the present. So it's continue engaged. When you look at it, looks like it's from the past. Or perhaps you've seen it somewhere. Is it belong to the future? Or is now somewhere I have not seen it? So it's continued question about what this is, where it's coming from, what for. Is it from our civilization? And where does it go? Mm-hmm. Okay, I go back to this image in the very beginning. And I always wanted to look carefully the kind of balance we have in this universe. And you and me are extremely lucky to live in this moment of the space-time relationship, that Earth is still rotating around the sun, and we have season, we have morning, we have afternoon, we have night, and we have, okay, maybe not here, we have winter, we have summer, we have all the seasons, we have rain, and it works. We grow, so as the plant, so as the animal, that kind of balance. And I think design is like that, is to make that balance to happen, to the way that you deal with the material you have, the space you have, the kind of things that you continue to work with is actually finding that balance, and it is there. It's the best reference, and I always cherish that kind of moment in this part of my life, that the Earth still rotating around the sun. Thank you.
Teman-teman dari Universitas Indonesia. Oke. As you know, Mr. Chiwinglo agak keberatan kalau misalnya interaksi di sini ini kurang gitu. Kenapa? Karena sebetulnya kenapa sih mahasiswa kita tuh selalu setiap ada sesi tanya jawab pada bisanya diem gitu. Tapi sebetulnya Mr. Chiwinglo menginginkan ada sebuah interaksi yang lebih aktif di sini. Kenapa? Karena ini sebetulnya penting untuk kita. Gambarkan sekarang ini adalah masyarakat ekonomi ASEAN. Lagi-lagi MEA yang mungkin teman-teman desainer itu masih mengabaikan. Sorry to say, tapi di sini ada teman-teman dari HDII juga, mungkin ada juga sebagian dari Ikatan Arsitek Indonesia gitu. Nah, sebetulnya presentasi-presentasi seperti ini yang disampaikan oleh lecturing internasional itu sangat penting untuk pemahaman apa? Untuk pemahaman agar kita desainer muda Indonesia itu bisa nggak kalah dengan kreasi-kreasi dari desainer internasional. Terutama kita pengen mengangkat Asia di pasar global yang lebih luas lagi. Oke, pertanyaan pertama dari Universitas Indonesia, Mr. Chiwinglo. Can you tell us about the most challenging project you've ever worked on? Okay.
I don't think it's about challenging or not challenging. I think it's perhaps a question of how deep you can observe how we live, where you can improve upon, where you think that the design can come forward to give a little helping hand. And I think from that perspective, design is always challenging because it appears to be so simple, but yet we continue to overlook them for other reasons. Because today design is perhaps no more about making things work better. It's perhaps make the designer more famous, or he want to get a job, or he have to paint that thing red, or for other purpose, which is irrelevant to the essence and the expectation about design.
Oke, cukup menjawab. How do you maintain the poetry through human needs that is always changing?
Change is poetic. Without that, it's also something that is not realistic. We're living in a changing world. And the beauty of the poetry is that it arrests you. It makes you to change slower, to make you to look at the things closer, to slow you down, to make you reflect, to think. And I think whatever it is around us, whether it's an object, a furniture, a space, an architecture, they should always have this power to slow you down, to make you think and reflect. And I think that's perhaps a function we tend to overlook. I talk about a house that I took 9 years to build, and now I can talk about it. I just have 2 workers. they work with marbles only. And because I realized that they have a good eye to understand problems, I help them to understand wood, metal, plumbing, electricity. So these two people helping to build a house from a piece of land to become a floor. So 9 years actually is not very long. And for that reason, it's just like allow you to make mistake and allow you to change, to correct it. Because today, we run up behind deadlines, we have to finish like this. And you believe finish, you can move on like this. And I think everything around us in a constant stage of being improved. No matter how perfect that thing is, it's always there's space for you to improve. So sometimes this is why we design another chair.
Hello, my name is Sita from La Salle College. Hello, Mr. Chiwinglo.
Hello.
Thank you for your inspiring presentation.
Thank you.
It's very eye-opening and philosophical in a way. Well, my question is, it's a pretty long question. I immediately think that your design has an East Asian Oriental vibe to it, despite your years abroad, traveling around the world, but you still have that East Asian vibe. In what aspect do you think your East Asian origin influence your design? Is it the specific way you play with light, with material, with wood? Because I think East Asian is really known for its contemplative design philosophy. Maybe this is also a biased view because I'm also an Asian, but yeah, that's my view. What is your view regarding the Western and Asian design philosophy, how they interact with each other, how they enrich each other in your work, especially? Yeah, I think that's all. Thank you.
I try because this is another lecture.
Yeah, okay.
But I must say it's a very interesting question because this lecture taking place in this part of the world, and we touch upon this. I grew up in the Far East. I studied in America. I live in Europe. Within these three continents, each gave me something. When I was in Hong Kong, where I grew up, I still remember today, what is the Chinese? How do you express that? And there's only two words I always express that. They are humble, they are quiet, they don't speak so much, and they're very modest. This is always in my mind, and I don't know now today, are they still like that? Huh? And in America, it's so wide, the landscape, so broad, you get lost. It's a place that you must find yourself. In Europe, it's the history. You cannot erase it. Whatever you do, you have to add on to it, become part of that. In Europe, the continuity of things around. You cannot demolish a city, build something. You have to add something to the city to make it work better. So these three lessons from the three continents is all present in my work. Now go to the question about that Eastern spirit. I think if you look at the collection, they inspire you not so much any motif or symbolism in them, because you don't see any dragon, you don't see any phoenix, you don't see any gold, red, anything like that. But has that kind of spirit in it, and that kind of calmness and humility in it. And I think that is maybe the spirit that best describes what I've been doing all these years. Now, related to the Western world, I think we must look for the similarity of things. Who does not want to go home to be quiet, away from the noise, away from the hustle that outside every day? And I think this is shared by all culture, not just us. West, East, everyone. And I think today, I hope we have become more learned and understand what materialism around it. So the collection is also very modest. It never trying to tell you, I'm very important, I'm very rich, this is my house. No, they're actually very downplay its importance. The furniture just are like good, very humble servants, just helping you to live better every day. So that kind of similarity of the East and West, the kind of a common things that you see in them is precisely what I want to create, because eventually it's a collection of objects and things. It's not just shared by here in the Far East, but everyone in the world.
Oh my God, thank you for this opportunity. I'm just wondering one thing, that I can see some signatures from all of your design. So I was only wondering whether most of your clients come to you because they like or they love your designs, or you can adapt from your clients' personalities. Yeah. Okay.
And that makes things a lot easier, because that when you work particularly at private house, you have to be good friends first to start with, because you have to understand how he live. And yet you want to do something that you believe in it, and he can also live in it. So this is a very delicate situation and sensitive. You have to create that possibility. And I think the way I practice, which I don't do a lot, I do very selective things every year, the time that I have. So it becomes even more precious, to do this level work that synchronize from architecture, interior to all the objects done all together. And I'm alone. I'm the only one that bring them all together. I don't have a big team. I only have myself. So from that perspective, it's also to have a project like this is very important for me. But also I dedicate all these ideas to one person to make it work. So that client and me must be very, very good friends to start with, or at least to have that ingredient to become good friends.
Sorry,
Okay.
may I add some questions, sir?
Please.
Yeah, okay. It's hard, I mean, seeing you right now, it's hard to imagine you as a fresh grad or a small interior designer at the beginning. I mean, I bet you didn't start with big clients. At some time, maybe you start small, and realizing that design is a way to tackle problems. Yeah, I mean, right now, maybe right now you're more of an artist instead of, correct me if I'm wrong, you're more of an artist right now instead of a designer, because like you don't really look for a project, and then you have to share your client, your best friend's view about problem regarding their surrounding, which you have to answer with your design. I want you to give us your view regarding design as a way to tackle problems, and how did you start when you're still young, fresh grad or small interior designer? Thanks.
I think I'm still young, at least in my heart. I think, the beauty of being a designer, unlike musician, is the older you are, the better you are. Do you know that? Musician, 6 years old, they have to play a concerto with an orchestra in order to be considered a musician. Designer, when you're 60 years old, you just started. So you're sitting all here, you're babies. So there's a lot of time ahead for you. So don't worry about that. The opportunity does not come for you now. It will come. It'll be your turn. Don't worry about this. But when it comes to your turn, you must be ready. This is most important. Thank you for seeing me as an artist, because this is another level of understanding of the world around you. Because through philosophy, through aesthetics, what is beauty, what you believe in beauty. Design has certain mundanity. There's a chair. Somebody sit on it, will not collapse. You sit on it, has to be comfortable. You have to fulfill this requirement before we talk about even a chair. So that part of it, particularly with my practice and doing so much work in design in Italy, I separate art and design completely. It's like I never ask people to sit on my sculpture and say, this is a chair. Never. It's a chair, it's a chair. There's a very different design perimeter. A sculpture has a very different perimeter about philosophy and beauty. So that has to be extremely clear. So not just furniture now, we talk about interior. That has to function. What kind of room is necessary? The light comes in. What kind of material build that interior? The architecture has to stand up. Sometimes there's earthquake, sometimes there's typhoon, sometimes there are other issues, strong wind. You have to deal with that. Before we talk about if it's good. Today, of course, many designers just make a little gesture, believe this is architecture, and overcome. So that's signature, and I don't do that. I don't believe we just make a signature here and there and something like that. It becomes your logo. I think a view architecture is not about logo. There's a site you have to resolve. There's a structure itself you have to resolve, and it has to stay. Supposed to be forever. This is another big question. So all this about design and art, I separate them very, very well. And I present art in gallery. I present furniture in showroom, in exhibition related to furniture.
Selamat sore semuanya. Nama saya Fendi dari desain produk Trisakti. Saya mau nanya produk yang tadi, gimana sih cara bikin sambungan kayu yang sepresisi barusan? Apakah itu manual atau pakai bantuan komputer? Terus ada pertanyaan berikutnya dari teman saya juga, material apa yang digunain supaya kelihatan luxury look gitu, kelihatan mewah? Mungkin itu sekian dari saya, terima kasih.
It is made of wood. There's no measurement because it can be as big as you can imagine or could be as small as you can imagine. So it's made to this dimension at the moment, temporary, to express that idea. Because I cannot make things enormous because I cannot carry it or to display, to show it. So I have to make a convenient dimension for it. Of course, there's a lot of technique in it to make this like that and it's not changing. You can go backward. You can go backward. Go backward. It's towards the last. Anyway, let me keep going with this. But when you look at it, it makes you think what that is, right? It makes you think, can I use it? If I use it, how do I use it? And what is it for? And this sculpture, not just this one, all of them are posing similar questions. Because first you answer, why the hell that is so precise? When you make something precise, there must be a purpose. And what is that purpose? I am just like you. After I make it, I'm searching like an archaeologist to find out what is it for. And I think that's the kind of device I use to overcome the limit of time. Because when you look at that, it can continue to question you. I believe not just now. I think you look at them 50 years later, more, and you still will continue to question, perhaps under very different contexts. Maybe we don't talk about gravity anymore. Maybe we talk about something else. Don't think that futurism is about metal or aluminum. Future could be about wood too. I do not know. Let's find out 500 years later. And I was leaving myself as a kind of unknown possibility. I try to answer you, but I'm trying to confuse you. Do you realize that? And this is precisely about this sculpture. Because the more you find an answer, it poses more questions. And these questions continue to multiply by themselves. And seeing by different people have different questions. Some say, oh, I have seen it, I've used it, but not exactly like that. But it was not this situation. Somebody, I've not seen it, I've never seen it like that. So it's also related to your background, your understanding of your association, your travel, your exposure. All these come together, it puts very, very different kind of questions for you. But the way it is done is present. Even a piece of nothing becomes luxury. Before we wear gold, wear diamond as jewelry. Today we wear a piece of wood as a jewelry because it's very well done. The wood suddenly elevates its value. So design is to give the value, to give them the substance of the material that becomes something you cherish more and more.
And then there's a third question from Trisakti.
You don't have to deal with color because it's natural color. I sometimes find myself great pain to apply a color on something. I always believe paint is a pain. It's painful to use because it just provides a very thin surface to the material and try to disguise as something else. So I try not to it. So when you look at the Greek column, when it collapses, because the whole block is marble. So when it breaks, it's marble. When it becomes pieces, it's still marble. So I try not to, because when it breaks, when it cracks, it still have that substance of material beyond its surface, has a depth.
Okay, and next is from Binis University.
Sorry, sebelumnya mungkin ada tambahan dari Trisakti.
Because today there's a lot of misunderstanding about minimalism. They believe simplification, not simplicity, as minimalism. So they make everything just rough, direct, and erase all the problem and details. That for me is called simplification. It's not simplicity. And simplicity is very much related to kind of, you reduce everything to its minimal bareness necessity in terms of material, in terms of how things are combined together, joined together to make something. So that is very, very difficult. Minimalism has another dimension, it's about space. Minimalism, when something minimal, you need a much bigger space to frame that object, to make it important. You cannot have a room crowded with minimalist object. The more minimal object is, you need emptiness of the space to bring it forward. And that's perhaps the importance of that minimalism. Go back to the earlier things concerning the importance of furniture in general. I believe furniture should not be too important because furniture eventually is something never exists alone. When you have a table, you have a chair, next to it there may be a sideboard, further down maybe a sofa, a coffee table, a vase, a little box, a little bench. So if every furniture is important, imagine how difficult your life could be. Then they are screaming at you that this is important, and that's important. So I think the important thing about furniture is to find that balance of different furniture, to bring them together so that as a whole, they can be silent and they can be with you when you need them.
And a furniture design, so that it can show out the uniqueness of a region or an ethnic. And can a furniture be some kind of an icon that represents a country, a region, or an ethnic without losing its identity, and at the same time it appears classy and elegant and not tacky, you know, not too cheesy in a way.
Very good. No. It's a lot of requests simultaneously for something. I guess what you call ethnic, I would like to look at it a bit deeper than just a kind of a superficial motif. I don't know, some of you may have seen my drawers. It's a device that has been used for thousands of years. And I never used sliding machines. And it works in that context of the drawer I designed. And I think if you bring ethnicism to the design, I hope you digest it to a level that is the idea that is ethnic, not the motif. Because once you use motif, it becomes very superficial. It's like imagine that I want to show that this is Chinese furniture, I carve a dragon on it. This would be too superficial. And I think why some culture continue to sustain for a long time and influential, because people continue to transcend the spirit, not the motif of that tradition. Japan, you know how influential Japan is to the rest of the world, particularly in the 16th, 17th century? And still very influential. It's not because that there's a Japanese element in it. It's the spirit of that calmness in the design, in the object, in the making, the humbleness of how they respect the material. They never insult the material they use. And that is precisely the influence they have to the Western world. So I think when we speak about ethnicism or ethnic design or style, you call it, I think the more you use it, actually you are narrowing down the possibility, become less and less. You are speaking only to yourself. I think design has an influence when you open up. You give more possibility to share with others the ideas. And the only thing they can share the idea is the substance of that idea, the spirit of that idea, not the motif of that idea.
Oke, pertanyaan cukup?
And first I want to question about how did you take your philosophy to adopt with the contemporary design, especially with the adopt to contemporary design.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I try to grasp your question and I try to give a more succinct answer. I think every one of you, consciously or unconsciously, believe in something. I think that belief in you is eventually helping you to select or refuse things around you that make you become who you are today, present yourself who you are today. And I think everyone is doing that consciously or unconsciously. Design is the same. And I think not just designer, anyone living today has that kind of obligation or right to be like that. Because we live in a democratic world. We don't have to think the same. You know? And I think in this world that you see, what you call philosophy sounds a little bit too deep, maybe. Let me simplify a little bit. It's maybe about something to live a little bit better, make your life a little bit easier, to have something in your home to make you calmer. And you have it, you cherish it. You stop folding things around. You start putting your things in place. Once you put them in place, you can find them. It's like if you have a library, not classified, you have 5,000 volumes, but you don't know where they are. You cannot find the knowledge. But I think those furniture allow you to cherish your belongings and how you put them inside and how to put them, where to put them. And so that you're constantly able to find them. Very simple things. And I think if you call them a philosophy, great. but I will even call them much more mundane, much more simple, is to make us to live better and cherish what we have.
Again,
Hello?
I'm very thankful to be here to hear a presentation directly. It's really amazing. Most of the furniture I've seen, they have story, they have detail just like yours, and yours is very unique. So here's my question. I have two. First, I would like to know, is there any story behind the thing that you create? When I saw the creation from Mr. Philip Stark, for example, each one of them have a background story. But in Indonesia, there's no many people care about that. Most of them care about functional and price. So what about yours? Do you have any special message that you want to tell us when client buy it? Also the second one, as a designer, we are all very aware that furniture design is very competitive right now. And there's also a brand from Japan which is very cheap, but the quality is okay. Do you see that as a threat for your future career, or you just don't care? I just want to create an amazing masterpiece. That's all. Thank you.
And sell it a lot. Yes, there's a great reality around us that we have to confront every day about that. And I think many designers are working on this sphere to fulfill these requirements. Why not to design something to sell by millions and accessible by many? I think it's great. Why not? I think the effort invested in that may be even far more rigorous and far more demanding than anything else. But you also understand that when making something like that, you have to produce a lot in order to be able to be cheap. It's a law of economics to make this to happen. You obeyed it, you work on it, I congratulate you, and I think many of us here should be able to do that as a kind of starting point. Now, of course, each of you have a kind of different aspiration in your life. Someone to do that, someone maybe not exactly, someone to do something completely different, approaching in product design. So I will not say is my answer to you, but I think we discuss about this, reality, the phenomena that we're talking about. The second one, could you remind me? It's about the philosophy of the second question.
The second question is...
Just a little bit, the second question, remind me a little.
Oh, the second question is actually about, I've seen some brand that they provide a very good quality and...
Yes. Yeah. Quality is something that is today is a subjective quality. It's for you may be good enough, for other people may not be. But there's also an economical law. Particularly the German does not believe that. Because when you buy something from Germany, there was not an intention from the beginning to make something cheap, because they believe something cheap is not going to be the best. This is an economical law as well. So when you say about good quality and cheap, and I also believe that it's a subjective statement, because I believe that when you look at the whole spectrum of product around us, there is a kind of a proportional graph. The more expensive tend to be better. If you can discover something in the opposite graph, it may happen in 2 days. Once everybody discovers that, this will increase in price because there's demand. If you look at in the economic point of view. So I'm not so convinced by the fact that out there's something so adventurous and it's not been discovered. I think they're always proportional. You pay what you get. That's what I believe.
Is it enough? Okay, thank you. And then the questions from Institut Kesenian Jakarta, rekan-rekan dari IKJ. Ingin bertanya langsung?
Selamat siang, saya Febrianti dari IKJ. Boleh minta tolong nanti ditranslatein ya Mas ya? Jadi ada beberapa pertanyaan dari saya dan teman saya. Untuk yang pertama, apakah Anda selalu membuat desain yang minimalis itu untuk mencangkup semuanya ya? Soalnya dari tadi yang saya lihat itu kebanyakan desainnya minimalis dan mengapa banyak repetisi pada tiap-tiap desain yang Anda buat itu. Jadi tadi nggak sekedar cuma furniturnya aja, tapi ada beberapa garis-garis dari interiornya juga itu yang terdapat repetisi. Dan satu lagi, refleksi seperti apa yang Anda rasakan ketika mendesain furniture dan produk yang terinspirasi dari alam. Soalnya dari tadi kan dilihat juga ada beberapa produk yang inspirasinya entah itu dari air, tetesan air atau bahkan angin, ya seperti itu. Terus mungkin yang satunya lagi tidak berhubungan dengan interiornya, tapi mau tanya kenapa Anda memilih berkarir di Italia, kenapa tidak di Cina?
It's sometimes that far more natural and easy. Subtraction, when you do that more, it becomes negative. Huh? And so is designing. When something you keep adding on is an easy process. You add, you find it not, you just add. But subtracting is very difficult because it requires a lot of understanding of physics, material, use, function, research on whatever is necessary to make that to happen. I don't know, maybe some of you have this experience. Have you tried to create a straight line? Do you know how difficult is a straight line? And the materials always betray you when you try to make a straight line. The wood will bend, the steel will do something strange. The stone definitely doesn't want to make a straight line. Even the glass, no matter how flat it is, when you look at its curve. I think when you talk about minimalism, it's that kind of perfection to believe that there's something like calculus, the proximity to a straight line. And I think that subtraction is parallel to that, is how to make things less and yet to show its essence, the bare necessity. This should be a challenge for everyone. For example, if there's a solution, a table, whatever, that I can only use one material to do it, I will use one material. The reason why I add another material is because that material was not good in doing that particular job in that particular place. There's no reason to introduce two materials when one material can do that. I mean, if you think that way, there is already a very respectful way of looking at the resources around you. So you subtract so that you can leave more resources for the other, for your next generation to use them. If you keep adding, it's easy, but it doesn't help to make the design concrete, last, and make it continue to valid in a longer time. It becomes a style when you add. I like it. So easy to say. I think if you love certain form, it's like I love circle and square, for example. You use them, but does not mean that you use them always at the same time, same way. How they overlap, how they relate to each other, or how they juxtapose with each other. And when you use those geometry, how much they can be expressed by the material you use. Or maybe that material cannot be circular, square is better. or maybe that material square is impossible to make, something like that. I'm repeating myself because I believe in certain things, certain consistency of things. But within that consistency, there's the kind of a variation that is necessary to allow me to have this simple geometry to tackle different kind of problems, different kind of requests in the design, different kind of expectation and demands to make it fulfill. And I think that is important. It's like I'm very faithful to what I have as tools, and I continue to use those tools to overcome problems. That may be what you mean by repetition. That the drama override all fictions or artificial ideas. Nature is the same. I appreciate that part of the nature. And sometime in my mind, I said, is it anything better, more beautiful than nature? It's a search. And how do you capture that and single it out? It's like the Chinese bonsai, the panzi. It's a part of the nature, bring it into the house, and you trim the tree, you guide, you help it how to grow to the form that you want. You want the form is better than what it should be. It's already exists in our culture to try to do something better than nature. Now, of course, how much we can achieve that, I don't know. But I think that inspiration is always present, not just in me, I think in every one of you. I believe they continue to inspire in different ways. Whether you borrow it, you capture it, or being inspired of the way they are, and how do you relate it to the design to them, or how do you bring them in, or become part of your design. I think this continues as a theme.
Okay, and the fourth question is, why finally you choose to work with Italian manufacturer rather than China or Hong Kong?
Fabio can answer this question. When I study architecture, I study a lot of European architecture, particularly the Renaissance, and then also before Roman time and prehistorical time. And I travel a lot in Italy, even before that. And I think if you look at this culture, they have a long history of making things. And architect, particular, they're not just building buildings. Architect that time is military engineers. They build castles. They build palazzo, of course. They paint, they sculpt, they write, many of them. So they do all kinds of things as perfect as they can be. And because of that tradition that has passed along to now, in Italy, the making and designing almost together. There's a good sense of things around them, what they make, you know? And I think from that tradition, it's so inspiring and strong, and I learned so much from it being in Italy for more than 25 years. That it was natural for me when I do something, I want that knowledge, I want that background, that skill, that dedication and passion that share with me that to make this to happen. It was a very natural choice. It was not something that I need to think about it. It was just come to me as almost like as realistic as air.
I have a
Good
question.
evening.
I have a question for you. As an Asian designer who use mainly Asian culture and shapes as the source of your inspiration for your object, how did you manage to enter the global market and be accepted? Also, during the design process, is it more challenging during the idea generating process or the prototyping process itself? How do you deal with those challenges? Thank you very much.
And that times I was not called Qi Wing Lo. I was called the Chinese architect. Nobody knows my name, the Chinese architect. So everybody knows because there was only one in Italy at that time. And for that, there's a lot of, I would say, burden on me, because what I do, what I move, what I think represent a whole nation behind me. Imagine, it's tough. But they also call me the Chinese architect. Maybe also like your observation that in the design, there's certain association, which I always call that calmness, that never, not so easily disturbed, never going forward to tell to the people that this furniture is important, is beautiful. The furniture always set back as a kind of a background. And I think that understanding of me, of my work, that times, that's why they call me, now I think back, that why this is called the Chinese architect, because of relation of that spirit, which is quite very much coming from that culture. And that uniqueness of the culture, I would say, is helping me a lot from precedents like Japan's influence in the Western world, particularly in Europe. And I think, many architects at that time was very much influenced by the Japanese culture. The Macintosh collection, for example, is very much influenced by that. So I think that relationship of what I've been doing with that kind of work, they associate me to that. And that time was very, very fresh, because in Italy, since the Second World War, design was the main economy to help Italy to grow. It's like for Japan, it's the white goods. For Italy, it's the design. And the work that I was doing, it gives a kind of sudden freshness, a possibility that open up to the context of the Italian design. So that perhaps it was so naturally accepted at that point, because it's a little fresh air coming in there. It's open up new possibility in that. And that time, of course, the market in the Far East is not developed at all, only very recently. So I was very lucky too, have that preparation of 2 decades until I'm quite mature now, that it become natural to have that kind of craftsmanship from Italy, and yet has a kind of appreciation from this part of the world. And I was to emphasize that this collection, I never intended to be for a particular culture. It's supposed to be for everyone in the world.
And my name is Agung. I work as an interior architect. And my question to you, only one question, that as you know that Indonesia has a unique and a lot of culture and tradition. And as you can see that we have adapt nature towards our design. And what do you think, or what's your opinion about your design? Is it applicable or is adaptable towards Indonesian houses of cultural design in Indonesia? So that's my question.
Is to influence, good influence, right? So if the design has a good influence, I don't think just Indonesia. I think it's whoever feel it, believe is suitable. And I also believe that today we live in a global world, global context. Our way of seeing is beyond the walls that we create ourselves, beyond the context, the region we live. And I think that good ideas, why not? Good way of using material, why not? Good way of putting together a few furniture in an environment which give you much poetry, much optimism in your life, why not? Why we need to set a boundary? This is Indonesia, this is Malaysia, this is Chinese, this is Holland, this is Italian. No. I think good design has that influence to break that boundary. And I continue to hope that all of you, when you do a design, look beyond your own culture, but use your influence of your culture and use the thing that you use to work with to expand it. Because it's this influence to help other people to understand your culture.
Thank Thank you.
Cukup Mas?
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
My name is Nicholas from Bunus University, interior design major, and I'm on my 6th semester. And I actually have 3 questions for you. To be honest, when I see your work, I do realize that I really admire it. It looks so beautiful about its unity, its harmony, its wood, natural, and the wood grain. It's blends so beautifully, and at least for me, when we design a furniture or a product, all we think is about inspiration, ideas, concept, and then we combine it into a form. And I do realize that your design or your work is deeper than that. You use a poetry and a philosophy. So my first question is, how and when do you get your inspiration about the philosophy, and how to transform it to a form of a design? And my second question is, actually it's a question from my friend, as a designer, in the beginning, how do you find your own style or your own signature? Because it's trouble us. And the third question is about us as a newborn designer, a junior designer. In your opinion, what is our first step to become a successful designer and becomes like you? Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's very, I'm touched by this question. If I put the first question a little bit like a joke form, it's like you want to know what is my tricks, right? I have no tricks. I have no shortcuts. I directly face the problem that I addressed. Inspiration is something that, I guess, you're very young. Me too. In a design year kind of concept of time. I think design has nothing to do with moving the mouse, or looking at the computer screen, or working with a program. Forget about that. This is only a little tool. I think design is in your eyes. You see the things around you. You sense it. What should I say? You're always being facing a problem. You always want to try to overcome certain things, and that is the most important part, because design has nothing in it except to help others to live better. It's observation in your life. So don't worry, you're very young, and there's a lot ahead for you to observe, to understand. The second question was about...
How do you define the truly you in your design?
Okay. One thing I learned in America, very, very important, I hope you also learn this, is that there's nothing right or wrong in design. People laugh at you, ha ha ha, what you're doing is stupid. Don't worry. Insist. Do the research. Sustain it. More design based on that idea. Expand it. Make it more and more convincing. That's exactly what I did. When I presented the first collection in 1995, people said, "Chi-Wing, what are you doing? Your furniture is so difficult to make. Going to be very expensive. Nobody will buy it. Fourth, you don't even use the wood, which is in fashion. That time was cherry, and I was used maple. I was completely off. I was totally innocent about all these kind of things. But you do it. You insist. And it's accepted. Slowly more accepted. The collection start to grow. People say, it's possible. It can be like that. I mean, throughout your life, that when you walk straight, there's a lot of hurdle that people pushing you back, pushing you to the side. pushing you left and pushing you right. Don't worry about it. I'm facing this every day, and you'll continue to face this. And I think in this process of facing those problems, that you continue to have a belief deep inside you that I believe in this. Let me continue to push for it. Of course, I want to warn you, but it's a good thing to know. Designer, the payday is very late. You have to work very hard when you're young until a certain point. Then you realize you have reward. And when they come, usually they're very good to help you, not just to free yourself from mundanity, to work even more focused, but also give you the satisfaction to do more things that you wanted to do. So I just for so many young people here, I want to infuse this kind of optimism in this lecture to tell you that you must not give up and don't believe your idea is stupid. Because you need the time to develop it. I took 23, 25 years to do that. So there's a lot of time I have for you to develop that. I told you before, designer is not like a musician. The older you are, the better you will be. Okay?
Okay, and the third question, maybe it should be inspiring everyone here. It's like more some advices, becoming a good designer, how it start, when to start, and anything like that.
I think I spoke to a couple of friends in one of the dinner two nights ago. I think the most fragile moment in your career is when you just finish school. Because you learn so much at school, so much ideology, theory, that you believe that something is not this realistic world that you're working with, something far more global, far more ideal than what is around. And this is the time that when you get out of school and you start facing a reality, say, well, you have to work, otherwise you cannot feed yourself, you cannot buy bread and butter, you cannot survive. And this is a cruelty that continue to face everyone. And I think I told my story to some of you here. When I finished school, my wife told me, you never work for anyone. My God, it's terribly difficult, very difficult. But why she said that? Because she realized that I'll go back to Hong Kong, join a firm, build skyscrapers, become rich. She said, no, this is not for you. And I never worked for anybody since then. Of course, in the very beginning years, it's extremely, extremely difficult because you worry a lot of things. Only myself and my wife, we don't have children yet. But then we still believe what we're doing. We enter competition, we win a little bit prize money, we survive. Then somebody asked me, can you do furniture? I said, I've never done that before. He said, exactly. That's what we want you. You have never done furniture. This is great. And then the opportunity opened up. I was an architect. I started with furniture. Then because of furniture, I do interior. People ask me to do architecture. Now I do all of them. So don't worry about the twists and turns in your life. But as far as you hold your belief strong, it will help you to move forward the way you want.
Brenda, say hi to the audience. Okay, so I'll help to translate. Question from Brenda dari UPH. How do you reach your design so that you can influence the environment, and how you analyze your environment without losing its identity? It's a very interesting question.
Right? Not a particular nature, anything surrounding us. I think when you design something, you have to know why you designed that, what for? The first question. If something has been done maybe better than what you're going to propose. I think the first research is, where are you in design? In this relay, there are many designers in history that are doing this thing, and now it's your turn to take this continuity. And you have to pick up where the things you are given and where you should bring it to. And I think this is the first research we must do. Because otherwise, we be repeating ourselves, and repeating ourselves has a big danger in today in particular. They produce two kinds of things. Repeating yourself means you're wasting resources. From an environmental point of view, it's not very sustainable. The second danger for me is detrimental. You believe that environmental pollution and make you sick and make you, okay, this is very important. But imagine visual pollution that damages your brain, damages your way of thinking, and you believe this is the way to go. And I think that is even more dangerous because it kills your soul. And I think design in the very beginning, that kind of research to sustain what you're working on, is to know exactly where you are, what do you want to head for, what do you want to improve upon. Design involves very little invention. It involves a lot more improvement. Accept the fact that something has been done in the far past, they are quite good, why you change it. Accept that, improve upon it. And I think design has that mission to improve upon something. I think that's also, you find your context where you are doing something, you should be able to know exactly what you want to improve upon.
Okay, enough? Iya.
Oke, ada lagi.
Oh,
Dianda from University of Indonesia, from what she knows, architect work comes first because it arrange building programming and also and stuff. Then after that, then only it comes the interior. Do you do that like alternatively? Do you do that like in order, the architect first and then the interior, or do you do them like simultaneously, all together at the same time?
Depends on the importance of certain thing you put priority. In today's practice, I think particularly in the Southeast Asia, when I'm coming from Hong Kong, knowing that the architect designs something, they believe the interior designer is like a second-class citizen. So that, they'll take care of it. And then the interior designer come, they finish their job, change all kinds of things. The furniture designer will take care of it. Then the furniture come here, and then somebody will buy some object. The owner will buy some object, will take care of it. And then eventually all these things coming together, it's sort of not going very well. Eventually, who fixed all this problem? It's the painter, the one who do the gypsums to cover all the problems. I never enjoyed this kind of process because I think design should be right from the start to knowing what that is and how to give emphasis, whether it's from furniture starting point or from interior or from architecture starting point. I think they should be continuous back and forth, but never on a sequence from big and small. I don't believe this.
Okay, enough? Thank you. Last question for you from us, from me actually. Okay, much of your products are made by wood materials. And how would you see an ethical mind in using wooden materials in terms of the reality that now the world having issues with illegal logging?
You mean wood, precious wood?
Yeah.
If you look at my furniture, the good percentage of the furniture using wood. But if you look at carefully, you have a chance to touch them. I only use solid wood very sparingly. I only use solid wood when it's really, really necessary. I use veneer a lot in surface, in certain part which does not vulnerable for being hit or being damaged. And solid wood is a place that protect the other part of the furniture, that when it gets heated, it gets sand and the problem disappears. So I think today is also an application when you use material that you have to use it sparingly so that you leave enough for the next generation to continue what they are doing. And also, it's an obligation now more and more. We cannot to cut a tree to build a cabinet. And I think it's also not necessary. And I don't believe it's so beautiful either.
Oke, thank you very much. Finally, kita sampai di puncak acara. And very thank you for Mr. Ching Wing Lo. A pleasure for the presentation. Dan terima kasih juga, of course, untuk kerjasamanya dengan HDII, Himpunan Desainer Interior Indonesia, dan juga also Plaza Indonesia dan Mayora, dan juga Casa Indonesia Magazine. Saya mewakili Casa Indonesia Magazine sebagai official media partner, and terima kasih banyak. Mungkin